Hello and welcome to EvilGinger Miniatures, where you're going to get more of an update on what's been going on here rather than an actual thing about modelling and things. So I'm going to be chatting for the next 20 odd minutes about developments because there have been quite a few. First of all, I was on and offline last week, mostly because I was in Leicester helping to pack and move the beta site. Because it's the family home and my mother is going into nursing accommodation and she needs to move out, so I was packing a lot of boxes. I'm going to have a lot of boxes of stuff to come here and I've got to store them somewhere, so they'll be in the workshop, which means I've got to reorganise the workshop. So this is another admin job that I've been doing in the background. It's not work related directly, but I needed to organise the workshop anyway, and it sort of acted as forced motivation, if you know what I mean. The gun was held to my head and needed to do it. But that's noises off and not an admin related stuff. Other than that, I've been doing admin here. First of all, I've got a set of buildings which I got from Warbases, which I was going to tart up in my usual way, and I was going to get some custom bits of MDF made for them. Now, Warbases don't do small quantities of custom MDF in the way they used to, so I got a volunteer who's got a laser cutter to do it for me, and I'd forgotten and he'd forgotten, so today I chased him up and I should be making progress with that. Of course, I will need to have moved stuff out of the workshop to get space to do this in, but it's making progress. So I told him no rush, but I do still want those, and don't forget, I've still got to chase Reaper Miniatures after my foul up with the order from America, and they're not giving me a payment link for the postage across the Atlantic, so I'm going to chase them and see if I can get it either cancelled or let them, or me pay the shipping. This is not a problem because I've now changed it so that all of my orders come from the Netherlands, which is the Europe one. It used to be in the UK, then Brexit struck and it was stranded the wrong side of the Iron Curtain, as most things are. The one that fell down the channel. So that's that in order. I'm expecting some models, some SDLs to turn up. I got notification today, but there appears to be a problem with the Dropbox. I've contacted the seller and I'm waiting on that one. I do hope it's not a scam. If it is a scam, it wasn't an awful lot of money, so I'm not unduly worried about that. But I would like the models because I want them for the North Africa stuff that I'm using the rest of these for, because they are Arab, well, but North African style houses, and whilst these will be used for a fantasy setting, the rest of them, of which there are about 30 odd of each, will get used for a sort of historical setting. And I was thinking of an Outremer game. Should have bought my copy of Outremer in. Outremer is one of the little Osprey rule sets, and it's not bad. I think it needs a little bit of improvement, and especially in turn order, as the turn order is fairly random. I'd like to introduce elements of command and control and actually have leaders lead. As far as I can tell, they don't have a leader effect, even if they have the leader ability, and you have to have one on the field. You know, morale and whatever else also works in relation to them, but not actually, or you and you go over there. But it's a nice little, it's potentially a very nice little game, and I probably want to solo it. I'm obviously going to have to get some Islamic opposition forces, and we're going to, I'm going to solo that here. Other than that, you may have seen, if you've looked at the work that I've started on the KNLI, and I'm seriously motoring along with those. I need to get back to doing that, and I will do that once I've done all the admin nonsense and had my regulation day off of the week, well, afternoon off for the week, which should be just before this airs. And what else have we did? I'm also going to be working on the Frostgrave scenery again, which is currently down in the workshop. I haven't done anything for a while. I was waiting for Milliput and some more War Bases stuff, but the War Bases stuff is here, came with the last order, the one I messed up where I ordered the wrong size bases with. And I have Milliput behind me, and I have an easy source of Milliput, so I'll probably be ordering more at the next opportunity. I'm intending to put in a paint order to Army Painter, because I've started using the sprays a bit more, and I need to top up those, and I need a top up of the soft tone, the dip, because my idea is to varnish the buildings with that, and to do the dungeon floor plans. Now, the dungeon floor plans, which are the subject of the previous week's intended episode, are now all done. Well, phase 1 is all done. Phase 2 is currently over here, and as you can see, phase 2 requires the stickage on of a lot of tiles, and there will probably be a phase 3. But I'm going to finish phase 2 and possibly varnish these. One of the uses of the dip would be to mix it up and use it as paint, and actually varnish this and give them a bit of a weathery feel to them. Might even have a little go with Army Painter speed paints properly thinned down to do that. I'll just put this back where they came from. I have a little stack of them down there at the minute, and I have a tray of them there. And of course, I'm still doing the project involving the Anarchy, and that's one of the more pleasurable admin tasks that I've got set up for myself because of the rule book, and I've got a lot of figures painted, so I'm going to spray them, base them, and I'm going to work out what warbands they go in. I mean, for some of them it's pretty obvious because they've got shields and they've got livery on the shields, and my retinue, sorry, not warbands, are colour coded by the shield. But the rest of people aren't, so I'm going to be putting dots on the bottom of bases so I know who goes in what. And there are also a lot of Ars Magica characters to do and finish, so hopefully this might be the last week that I actually run an Ars Magica session, which is becoming its own administrative nightmare. But I did call the gaming group the Nightmare Role Players group, and they're living up to it, at least on the admin side anyway. They're lovely otherwise, honest. Do you want a role-playing group? Free to a good home. Anyway, back to that. So that is going to be developing, and I'm going to be getting some of the floor plans deployed for that, and I'm going to get various bits and pieces, and hopefully I'm going to film some of it. Failing that, I will start doing some online stuff. I have a camcorder. Now, I don't know what I'm doing with this, and the one time I attempted it, which was last week's episode, the one that didn't happen, I managed to break it in half. I think I could use it as a camcorder, but the problem was I was trying to do something clever with it. And the clever thing meant that I couldn't actually see the controls on here, and I was having to peer at the screen, which is now lit up. But basically I was having to peer at the screen because I was actually filming sort of from the left, and it's set up to right-handed, which is irritating. However, I'm going to have a practice. I'm going to take this up to the area where I left the mouse out. The mice is out. If you remember my little mouse invaders. And I'll be doing some filming because it really comfortably sits in your hand like that. And whilst it's got an adapter, I also might try with one of my smaller standy things, sort of. Why is it locked? I've locked again. I don't know why. Right, it swapped cameras. I have no idea why it swapped cameras, but it did. Which leads me to the next discussion. Right, I found out that both cameras work, as you can see from, and as you could probably see if you saw the previous one that I actually posted, that both cameras work fine. However, I have a bandwidth issue on the USBs, and the bandwidth issue on the USBs is curable by addition of another USB bus into the desktop. Now, I deliberately built the spec'd the desktop such that it has the capacity to have more cards in it. I don't know quite how many, because it could also do with an SD reader card or similar. But did this the last time when I was testing with this, and I deliberately didn't pick scene 2. So I have absolutely no idea why about 15 minutes into the video, when I hadn't selected scene 2 at all, I closed the program and reopened it, it suddenly switched to scene 2, which is the looking down on the desk one, as you can see. So this is one of life's little mysteries. But I think if I can get a bus card on, I can probably do picture-in-picture on A, because as you can see, A is free, scene 1 is frozen, scene 2 is working fine, camera's working fine. In fact, it would help if you had your camera the right up, Simon. Really would. See, there's a little light on it. The little light's working. So, I'm not exactly sure what the issue is beyond it's a potential bus bandwidth issue, because I've probably only got the one on the machine anyway. I didn't set it up for multi-camera work. I set it up for multi-screen work, and it'll quite happily support 4 screens, but it won't. Not that I've got room for 4 screens, to be brutally honest, but it'll quite happily. So hopefully it's a fairly beefy beastie, so it ought to be able to handle an extra camera. So I'm going to chuck an extra bus in there, USB bus in there, probably before when I next get some money, and then we'll see what happens from there. It will be a pain in the neck because it is on top of a filing cabinet, and I do have to climb up on a step because I am, as you're probably aware, too short for this world, and I need a tall person, or preferably a free tall person that don't need to feed, to do such things, but they're not available, unfortunately. So that is basically what's happening with the camera setup. And I didn't mean to segue into the camera setup, but the primary screen saving, crashing and then swapping to the secondary one sort of forced me that way. So that's where I am, and that's where we are. Things are going to be improving. I've hit 500 subscribers middle last week, with better quality and a setup of a file sharing thing with my editing chap. We can actually get things done and generally improve the contact. But that's pretty much all I've got to say for now. So for now, that's me done. Take care, everybody, and I look forward to seeing you next one with more improvements. Take care and goodbye.